U.S. President Donald Trump doubles down on his tariff rationale, posting to his social media that he told Prime Minister Justin Trudeau that many people have died from fentanyl that came through the borders of Canada and Mexico, and nothing has convinced me that it has stopped. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says this would all go away for Canada by just becoming the 51st state.
He feels strongly that it would be very beneficial for the Canadian people to be the 51st state of the United States. They wouldn't be paying for these tariffs. They'd have much lower taxes if they were part of our great country.
Well, as private diplomacy between leaders continues, some Democratic lawmakers used the president's address to Congress to protest his policies, raising signs, wearing pink, and heckling. My next guest was at that address. Kim Schrier is a Democratic representative from Washington, and she joins me now. Congresswoman, it's good to meet you. Thank you for being here today.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you, David.
Those images of protest, the expulsion of Al Green from Texas, we all watched that here in Canada. Do you think this has any effect on the president? He looked kind of gloatful and triumphant as he spoke to you all last night.
Well, you know, sometimes he looked triumphant when it seemed like he was in a campaign rally. But I think we may have gotten under his skin. He sure likes either applause or condemnation when he's not getting attention and we're just sitting still quietly. I think that bugs him.
When they would pull back and show the crowd of this joint session of Congress, you could see the partisan divide very clearly. The Republicans standing and applauding, the Democrats sitting in silence and you know, holding up their signs. This pushback on tariffs is very easy to find people in your party, though we have heard from a Republican mayor earlier today. Is there any sense in Washington that Republican members of Congress, of the Senate, are unhappy with this and making their opinions known to the administration?
Well, first of all, let me just say that we struck a modernized USMCA 5 years ago. You are allies. We should not be getting into a trade war, a tariff war with our friends. And the notion of Canada as a 51st state is just plain ridiculous. I want to set that record straight. I do want to tell you something very interesting, that last night, as I watched my Republican colleagues cheering again, as though they were at a rally and acting like they are completely unified and with this president, in my private discussions, that is not the case. Many of them are quite concerned.
Canadian officials who have gone to Washington, and it's been pretty much nonstop, right? That ministers and diplomats and law enforcement and border officials are constantly going to Washington to try to convince the administration of this, that in the private conversations, it seems that people on the Republican side are either very confused by what the administration is doing or very unhappy with what the administration is doing, but completely unwilling to say so publicly and unwilling to say it to the face of the administration. As the pain of this trade war moves through the economy, do you think that might change, at least in the willingness to confront and speak out? Because it seems like that is going to be necessary.
Well, as a Democrat, I don't feel like it's my position to speak up for or try to get into the minds or actions of my Republican colleagues.
Fair.
But at some point, something has to give. And, you know, we all have constituents to answer to. Not a single one of my constituents, and let me remind you, I am in a 50-50 district. Not a single constituent in my town halls, in my personal meetings, has ever asked for a tariff. In fact, I have a great deal of agriculture. Canada and Mexico are very important trading partners. And when we get into tariffs, which essentially are a tax on the American people, and then retaliatory tariffs, which hurt our farmers who export excellent produce to you, this is not productive, and frankly, it just hurts my constituents and it hurts Canadians.
Yeah, there is very much a circular firing squad component to this entire thing. And we're seeing, you know, it's now pretty measurable. Canadians are not traveling to the United States with the same frequency, even in the winter. You know, British Columbia, right next to Washington State, you know, land crossings from BC into Washington down about 30%. You know, from this month, February to February, year over year. And on trade, on alliances, on transatlantic cooperation. People are turning away from the United States. I mean, what are your thoughts on where this might go long term? Because we've still got 46 months of the presidency to go.
Please don't remind me of that.
Sorry.
Let me just say that I feel like we are in upside down world, that we have a president breaking with precedent, 80 years of precedent of coordinating with our allies, understanding that alliances matter, understanding who our friends are and who our adversaries are. And this is really inexplicable to me. And frankly, I hope that my Republican colleagues will stand up for American values and democracies around the world and will strongly pressure our president to stand up to dictators like Putin at this time in history.
Well, Congresswoman, I wonder how this is resonating, do you think, with the American people? Because we have obviously been very focused on this as the junior partner and more vulnerable economy in this economic relationship. But really, it wasn't until like the last day or so we saw even the White House press secretary being aggressively questioned on it today. You know, what more can Canada do, sort of thing. How much has this permeated through the American consciousness? And will it take us finding ways to drive your price of gas, price of food, and price of electricity through the roof before it starts to penetrate?
Here's what I can tell you about my district. People are concerned. People are engaged. The people in the agriculture sector in particular are concerned about this. And we do something called telephone town halls, where we call out to constituents, give them also a call-in number. Typically about 4,000 people will join, and they want to hear from me, how I'm feeling about things, get answers about what is going on. The last one I did had almost 15,000 people on. People are worried. There's no way those are all Democrats. And I heard questions about whether people would have Medicaid and Medicare, which is healthcare systems in our country, whether tariffs would happen because they had been postponed, what that would mean for family farms. And I will tell you that our country also trades with India, and they buy some of our best apples. And when the U.S. in the last Trump administration imposed tariffs on India, they imposed retaliatory tariffs that put family farms out of business and essentially knocked back that export market by about 99%. It took me 2 years of working between the US and India to get that reversed. And, you know, this really does permanent damage to the relationships with our allies. And I think we need to be very mindful of that. We should not be getting into a tariff war with our friends.
15,000 people for a telephone town hall is a remarkable level of participation in that kind of direct democracy. I wonder, just as a final point, Congresswoman, what Elon Musk and his Doge group is doing seems to be driving a lot of that participation. I know you're not a Republican, but they've had people showing up and it's not gone well for them with the job cuts and the service cuts. I mean, it's a very anxious and uncertain time, it seems. Is that a big part of what you were hearing about in your town hall?
Oh, this is so reckless. In my town hall, I hear about things like cutting the Forest Service at a time when our forests, just like yours, go up in catastrophic fire every summer, and we need to manage our forests. These are really destructive, and people are engaged. I'm doing another telephone town hall tomorrow, and we'll see what is on people's minds. But this just reckless taking a chainsaw to a federal government that provides essential services that people count on, but people may not really understand how much they count on those services until they disappear. And that makes me just afraid for, sad for, and frankly, fighting for my constituents.
Yeah, these are anxious times. I want to thank you, though, Congresswoman Kim Schrier, for making some time for us, Democratic representative for the state of Washington. Thank you for being here. It's good to meet you.
Thank you.